2009's Black Dynamite wasn't the only blaxploitation spoof released in the 2000s, but it's the one that has had the most staying power as a bona fide cult classic. Not to say Undercover Brother doesn't have its moments.
Blackness confirmed.
Sometime around 2018 or thereabouts, Michael Jai White released a concept trailer for this spiritual sequel to Black Dynamite, a western entitled
The Outlaw Johnny Black,
splicing new footage together with clips from existing westerns, a technique he used in Black Dynamite as well. The movie itself wouldn't be completed for another 4 or 5 years. In the meantime, White's kept busy with leading roles in, I was going to say the streaming era equivalent of straight-to-video action movies, but that includes Netflix originals like The Irishman and Buster Scruggs, so I guess feature films aren't really a tiered market anymore. He's also filled supporting roles in movies like Dragged Across Concrete, and he's been irritating Bruce Lee fans by suggesting that he could take him in a fight.
Bruce Lee, I wish I didn't say that because he's my hero too.
In the 14 or so years between the two films, Black Dynamite has had time to become a cult favorite, but most fans don't seem to realize that these movies are part of a weird metaverse. That is, Black Dynamite doesn't really star Michael Jai White, it stars Baltimore Colts running back Ferrante Jones. Forced into early retirement by a neck injury, Jones tried his hand at filmmaking, following in the footsteps of icons like Fred Williamson and Jim Brown, both of whom have a cameo at the end of Johnny Black, by the way. White's not the only one playing an actor playing a character. An early trailer for Black Dynamite credits
All-Star running back Ferrante Jones, fashion model Tambula Takar, William T. Michelson, Ronnie Sinatra, Little Tiny Tibbs, Junebug, Bo Willie Peter, and me. That bad bullhorn.
There's some extended lore as well, like this ad for a Ferrante Jones endorsed fitness and self-defense program, which is just a mail-order Smith & Wesson handgun. And the Black Dynamite Twitter account says that Jones was the first man to win an Oscar and the Super Bowl in the same year, 1974. This would probably mean that he shot Black Dynamite while still in recovery from his neck injury, and you'll notice he has a bit of Michael Keaton Batman thing going on in Black Dynamite. There's no official timeline to check, but we can at least assume that The Outlaw Johnny Black was produced a few years after Black Dynamite, given that his neck mobility seems to have improved, and so have his crew's filmmaking abilities. Where Black Dynamite was marked by numerous production errors, including visible boom mics and countless accidents during the movie's many fight scenes.
Damn! Motherfucker!
The Outlaw Johnny Black is a relatively slick production, as if it was actually put together by experienced professionals. The storytelling in The Outlaw Johnny Black is relatively mature as well. Black Dynamite was pure self-insert action movie fantasy. Black Dynamite starts the movie as the coolest man that ever lived and ends the movie as the coolest man that ever lived. Johnny Black is, for the first half of the movie, kind of a scumbag.
Stole my name, my church, and my woman!
He feels vindicated by a righteous quest for revenge on the man that killed his father. But in practice, Johnny's not much more than a low-rent grifter with a fast hand. In order to escape the law, Johnny Black trades identities with a preacher he meets in the desert, presuming him dead after a war party attack. Johnny soon learns of $5,000 stashed in the church's safety deposit box and hatches a plan to abscond with the cash the minute the bank opens on Monday. Until then, he plays the part of a preacher and blends in with the community, and over this short weekend, in pretending to be a moral leader, gradually concedes to his better inclinations as he becomes enmeshed in these people's lives. The film is relatively bloodless compared to Black Dynamite, with very little action until the third act. A lot of westerns coming out these days want to be gritty and realistic. Black Dynamite reminds me of the more family-friendly spaghetti westerns with guys like Terrence Hill. Speaking of Terrence Hill, Johnny Black has one of the best slapping scenes I've seen in a cowboy film. And yes, that's a thing. Terrence Hill used to slap guys around while pulling their own guns on them all the time. The Outlaw Johnny Black confronts post-Civil War racism head-on, and there is, of course, the specter of racial violence hanging over the film. The movie's not afraid to bring this stuff up, but it's never, racialized white guilt torture porn. It's possible to tackle some of the most stomach-churning historical subject matter and still have a good time at the movies. Paul Schrader recently made this Facebook post stating that the average football player is 50 pounds heavier than they were when Schrader first started watching, and permanent disability is becoming more common. Ferrante Jones was a man who nearly sacrificed his life for this game, and only after that near-death experience was he allowed to pursue his creative passions. In 1974, the Colts were owned by a businessman, Robert Ursay. Jones broke his neck making this rich man a little bit richer, and from there he used his stardom and his connections to create employment opportunities for other black creatives. I'm not so sure that the Outlaw Johnny Black will be the cult classic that Black Dynamite was. Not that it isn't just as funny and just as quotable.
Crack shot, Bob.
Well, now you just shot.
But this movie isn't a meme, and it's probably not going to kick off an Adult Swim series. White initially tried to produce this film via crowdfunding, and he raised just over 30 grand on Indiegogo. Michael Jai White told Paste magazine that The Outlaw Johnny Black would be the second in a trilogy, with each film featuring a new storyline and new characters, but produced by and starring the same stable of fictional talent. The third film in the trilogy will eventually be a horror film. If we don't get the horror film to round out this trilogy, I'm gonna be disappointed. If you liked this video, don't forget to like and subscribe.